Now that we're done with the rocker debacle, we can go ahead and move to the outer rocker and the cowl panel. You've seen these pieces before as I cut them off. This is from the rocker, 16 gauge. This is what we had seen on the outside, that rust. Actually, it was like this on the car. That's what it looks like on the inside. This was from the bottom of the lower right firewall, also pretty rusty. And then this was the right cowl, is what they call it. So this kind of goes on the car. Also pretty rusty. So we're gonna have to make a panel to replace this. This should be hopefully pretty straightforward. It's just a couple of bends here, one there, a little flange bend right there. So I'm not sure, I may pound this flat to get something to trace around, or I may try to use some paper or something, we'll see. Same deal here, except this is much thinner. Again, I'm gonna try to get this flange bent, and this is one piece. I'll probably come back and weld this piece on so I don't have to have this kind of complex curve bend. I don't have shrinker and stretchers here, so that'd be really hard to do. Luckily, this piece is purchasable, and so we have a new piece right there, brand new. So it's a reproduction part, so not off the same presses, I don't think, but I already put it up on the car and it fits really close. So I know that some people have had horror stories about things like this not fitting well, but this one seems like it's going to work out really nicely, and it's obviously going to save me a lot of time. Definitely worth the 50 bucks. So let's go ahead and get started making these new patch panels. Yeah, here's the piece of outer rocker rail that we cut out. It's pretty mangled. Here's the template I made out of some cardboard. Spent some time cutting on it and bending it in different locations and getting that pretty close on the car. And then here's the final piece. Cut out a 16th. You can see it's got some working there where I was using the hammer to try to tweak the angles. Mainly just cut this out with an angle grinder and a cutoff wheel, and then use the old vise here to kind of pop it in there and bend it over. And when you bend it this thick of stuff with your hand, it's hard to get a sharp corner, which is why I've got these hammer marks here. You kind of bend it over some with your hand and it gets a nice bow to it, and then you come back and you relieve it with the hammer to get that angle sharper. Now, if I had an English wheel, I could get this all flat, but I don't, and it'll probably be okay. It looks worse than it is on the camera, but I'll take you out there and show it on the car. And here it is on the car, held in with some stitch weld magnets. So you can see where the hole was. This is the new piece, relatively flush, seems to fit pretty well. Got the flange there lined up where I kind of had to section this. This wasn't obviously where it originally had a break, but I had to cut it out there, so hopefully I'll be able to weld all down through there. The flange seems to line up on the bottom about where it did originally, and then we'll pull this piece out, clean it up, and once this is welded in, this will get plug welded to that, and then there'll be some seam sealer in here to close all that up. So the next job is the front patch panel. Right, here's the original piece of the lower outside firewall. It's pretty messed up, as you can tell. Here's the cardboard template that I made. And you'll notice this piece has this front flange that comes down, and the cardboard template does not, and that's because I'm not trying to make this all as one piece. I'm going to make this surface and this surface as one piece, and then I'm going to try to come back and weld a strip on to get that piece right there. So there's the cardboard. There's the finished piece. Now to get the profile, this angle was really messed up, and so what I did is I actually took the reproduction piece and kind of held it up and used the reproduction profile to draw this, and it ended up fitting fairly nicely. So this is just the first step in this, but I'll go ahead and show you how it fits on the car. There's one more thing before we go out and put this on the car. I did not bend this in the vise like I did the other one. This is thinner material. This is 22, which is actually slightly thinner than I really would like, but it's what the hardware store had. So I use this world's cheapest bending brake here. And basically it's just two pieces of metal that have these joggles in them, a shallower joggle on the bottom and a deeper one on the top, and I got it at Harbor Freight for cheap. It's really nice when you're working with sheet metal. You know, this is 22 or aluminum or anything like that. You can just slide it down in here, slide it down in there, and then you can just bend it over. And if it's the right depth for you, then you don't even have to measure it. You can just slam it to the bottom, bend it over. I just have it here in the vise. Works really well for thin stuff, like a $15 bending brake solution. So there you go. And here's the piece in the car. Again, I got some stitch weld magnets holding it in temporarily. The flange, as you can see, this is where the flange came down for the larger stamped piece. I will continue this with a strip. It'll be welded in all the way around here, connected down there. So it's pretty close. The back flange is looking good. My gambit on the on adding this patch piece and actually bringing it up to more level was pretty close, spot on. This high spot is now equivalently level across there, so it looks like we'll be okay. The one thing I have yet to do is when I cut the original piece off, I cut it as straight as I could, but it still wasn't exactly perfect. So what I've done is I've made this piece with a right angle to this back line, so this is the right angle. So what I've done now, if I take the magnets, move them off, take the piece away, you can see that I've drawn a line right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with either an angle grinder or body saw or something, and I'm going to true up this edge so I can get a nice flush butt weld, because with thin stuff like this you need the fit up to be nice and tight so you don't blow a hole through, although I'm sure I'll blow a hole through at some point. So, so we're going to go ahead and do that, and then we're going to see what we can do about welding this stuff in. I decided to go ahead and make the strip and then weld it on to the patch panel before I put it on the car, just because it'll be easier to jig, it was easier to bend, and then this will give me the best chance at having a successful weld being here on the welding table. So you can see what I've done, just made a 1 inch by 10 inch piece of strip of the same material, bent it and kind of bent it to the profile, and I'll go ahead and tack and then weld that together. This is not the patch panel. This is just a extra piece I did to start testing, since this is quite thin metal. Trying to get some settings sorted out, and as you can see, there's quite a few holes here. Part of that is because I was using those stitch magnets to hold it together, and on such a low amperage arc, it just seemed to be really, the magnetic fields were messing with the arc terribly. So I had to get rid of the magnets. That helped. Also, this angle in this corner really was causing me trouble. So what I was able to do is just get a couple of tacks on there and then gave it a try on the outside of the weld, and you can kind of see welding from the outside, that right there, that right there. It worked out a little bit better, didn't blow through, a little bit better. I also practiced my butt welds on this thin metal right here, trying different amperages and things. That's why it looks really terrible. So anyways, this is the piece. I've gone ahead and tacked it. There you go. Basically lit up the arc on the filler, just so I didn't blow through. Just tacked it in a few places, and then like I learned on my test piece, I'm going to come back around here, and I'm going to make my seam weld right along this edge. All right, here it is, all tigged up. You can see I went around the edge here a little bit at a time, little itty bitty tiny little beads. I was running about 30 amps max on the pedal, but I was closer to 20 the entire time around, so I really was trying to keep the torch height low and working very fast, trying not to blow through. And it actually worked out okay. A little rugged down there toward the end, but these turned out all right. Yeah, those weren't bad at all. And if you flip it over, you can see I definitely got penetration all the way through, which wasn't a question with this thin material. There is some sugaring. Obviously, I didn't back purge this, but honestly, I don't care. This is body work, so I think that'll work. Next step. All right, I've got the outer cowl panel mocked up on there, held at the top with a sheet metal clamp. You can see it fits right in. You can see this is the hole where that piece I've been working on needs to go. Here's that piece. So as I showed the last little clip, I tigged it all up, and it kind of needs to slide up in there. The problem is that this edge right here kind of has a weird profile, and this lip can't be 90 degrees, even though that's the way I welded it. Now I did get some tip in on this lip, just naturally due to the heat of the weld, and it kind of helped me out a little bit. But I need it more, and you can see I've got it bent down here, And when I put it in there, the problem is it's not quite sitting flush because I need it bent more here, and it kind of needs to gradually come to not being bent up here. But the problem is, as I bend this edge in, the outside bit of the material is trying to maintain the same length as the inside bit of material. And this would be where it would be great to have a shrinker, which would basically shrink this edge and allow this whole strip to kind of bend inwards. Now, since I don't have all the nice tools, what I've done is I've taken a little hacksaw blade, a little handle, and I've cut a slit down here. So what I'm going to do is push one behind the other and let it overlap. And then as I start to work the bend correctly to make it fit flush against this surface, that'll be kind of an expansion joint. And when I get it to where I want it, either I'll just overlap, tack weld it, or I'll cut it flush and come in and seam it back together. So yeah, this would have been a 2 or 3 minute task with a shrinker, but we'll make it work. Here's the piece where I made the little expansion slit there. I spent some time bending this angle, and it fits really nicely in there in that lower cowl piece. So basically I went ahead and grinded it out so it fit nice and flush, and then tigged it together. So I'm just going to take a flap disc and clean this up a little bit, and then it should be pretty well ready to go in.